out of town for about a month. And it's always wonderful to be home here in this community at Unity Wayfarers and to share with each other our light, our expression of spirit and oneness. Today's theme is the power of prayer and play, and we'll be, after a little bit of discussion, we'll have two practices, one on prayer and one on play, because after all, we need to get into practice of it, right? It's just not talking or listening about it, it's the experience of it and the feeling of it. And then we'll gather here in a circle, anyone who wants to continue a discussion and a sharing on the topics from today. So, prayer, what is prayer? We think of it as our endeavor to communicate with the ultimate reality we often refer to as God. And something that's sacred, something that's holy, to restore a sense of this communion or oneness, to allow things to settle and actually have that experience within ourselves. And there are many, many forms of prayer, and we can select any one that works for us. Often we can just talk, we communicate, and what we're doing is we're settling down to go within. Sometimes we may even confess something. Sometimes we may ask or petition. Sometimes we're even in a state of gratitude or appreciation. But the primary objective is to release anything that gets in the way of that peace that passes all understanding and that experience of oneness within us. And it's a process. And some things we can do to help ourselves is to first acknowledge that that exists, that we're already that it is within us, and be willing to let go of any thoughts or fears or memories or the stuff that's going on in life that could interfere with that. To have the courage just to let it go. To close the door on the outer and go into the secret chamber of our hearts. In the Upanishads, it states that it's an old scripture where originally, before there were books, people used to sit at the feet of other people that had experiences, and they shared with them little threads of truth. And one was that in the lotus of the heart dwells the God that is the master of your life and your body. But often we are separated from this feeling of oneness. Because we stay more in the head. And since Newtonian physics, we actually went into thinking the intellect was the thing. How much did you know? How much information could you spill out? Information is wonderful. We're told it's already within us anyway. How did people figure it out? It came from the inside out, and thank God they wrote it down. Because it makes it a lot easier for us. And often when we read, we just recognize things anyway. And then we repeat to get it into our muscle memory. But often this is one of the things as human beings we experience is this programming of separation. Especially when people, or you see things out in the world they don't act in oneness or wholeness, and we can get so pulled off the center and into that drama where it becomes trauma. And it gets so embedded in our brain, in our limbic system, and through our bodies, that it gets stuck and it keeps playing and playing and playing. So we're all up here. So the key is to go drop down into the heart and also into the body through the feeling nature. To feel a harmonizing of the brain and the heart together. And that's the exercise that we're going to share this morning. It is an extension of Greg Braden's practice with a little more extension to that. Always have to have my notes in case I forget, right? Because it was really good stuff. And I did. Okay. Oh yeah, the brain. There's this little brain we have, and it's in the heart. They've actually discovered it, okay? And there's over 40,000 sensory neurites that are very condensed, that has its own memory and its own thinking process. Is that amazing, what we're finding out with science? Oh, but let's pause for a moment and be real. We all know that when we have a true change of heart, doesn't everything else change? Our perception of things. And we rest in that awareness. Now, I'm not talking about ooey-gooey stuff, emotional thing. I'm talking about the seed of the soul, the joy of our being. Again, quoting from the Upanishads, I'll paraphrase. We are born from joy. We are sustained in joy. And when we exit this world, we return back home into joy. It is not the joy because we won the lottery, or we got a raise, or we have our first grandchild, or whatever that may be. It's the pure joy of existence itself. The awesomeness, the wonderment of our being. Without any judgment or criticism that we got caught up in the drama or the story or the drama. We just want to pull it back in. And take that energy that's been held in those patterns that we've been conditioned to. And when we have those feelings and thoughts, we can say, oh, I thought it, but I caught it. And what we say, but it's hard to do. Why is it hard to do? Because we've spent so much time there, strengthening these patterns in our brain and limbic system, and it's all about protection and survival. But there's another part. It's up here in the cortex. And when we can release the energy that's holding those patterns and those pathways, it's like getting an exit ramp that suddenly appears when you're stuck in a traffic jam. And you just flow with ease and grace to your goal. And that's our evolution. That's what we're all here to do, is to wake up from there, to go, to open pathways to here, in the prefrontal lobe and the top of the brain. And to harmonize our thinking and our heart, but come from the heart first, from the seat of the soul. In the Gospel of St. Thomas, which was, I think, written somewhere around, it's expected around 300 years after the life of Jesus, he had mentioned in that Gospel that if the two become the one, the thought and the emotion, then there is harmony and peace in the house. In the house. This is the house. So if we pause for a moment, can you think of a time when you felt caught up by some thought or something that happened that we had a reaction to, that started energy in motion, emotion, feelings started to come up? Oh my goodness, I think they say we have like 6 or 7 seconds before that cocktail of the adrenaline and the cortisol starts going. And if we don't catch it within those few seconds, it processes for another 24 hours. So that's why we want to pause. Find a place on your body to pause yourself. Whether it's your nose, or you hold your fingers together, or you put your hands together, or touch your navel, whatever works for you, to physically connect with your instrument, with your house, to get the attention. You know, when we have little 2-year-olds and they're getting into trouble and we have to grab them and, whoa, don't go over by the fireplace. We have to keep doing the same thing to ourselves. This is also part of conscious living. I'm rising above, going up into these higher parts of my brain, opening these pathways so that the light and the truth and the knowledge of my being can be revealed. So I don't stay stuck. And it happens to all of us. And the biggest thing that will keep us there, if we really just observe and watch it, check in with yourself. Is it not often lack of self-worth or criticism or self-judgment? Know that these are programs. They're the wrong ones.
Taking it personally?
Taking it personally. Okay? But also know, because we know now, we have more information, that from the age of 7 on down, okay, we're like plastic, we're like clay, and everything that we experience, through no fault of anyone, whether it's raining or snowing and the sun is shining, stuff happens, but it gets recorded in us, and we think we are all of that. We get programmed to believe that we're responsible. And how many are parents in here? Oh my goodness, so if we had known that, would we have not watched every thought and everything we said and every action we took so we didn't program our kids? Let it go. Be conscious now with everything we do. Because every thought changes the field. It changes. It's like how your cell phone works. Does anybody really understand that? How you get that image and you can talk, FaceTime, and all of this information on this little thing in real time? It's through communication waves and vibration that things get shared. And this is kind of like how consciousness works. There's a matrix or field that we're all part of. And every thought we have changes the field. And in that field is a smorgasbord of all possibilities and potential. So we can pick whatever we want. We can choose whatever we want when we're more conscious and aware. And we can rise above this program that's been in there for a long time. And do that with great compassion and discernment and understanding that this is our human process of awakening and evolution. There's no one to blame, so there's no one to really forgive. It just is. We can just move right into our joy of being. And the whole power of prayer is when the brain and the heart is harmonized. Because the seat of the soul, we also know scientifically, actually this huge electromagnetic field runs the brain. It entrains it. The whole body. We often say when we forget, that means what? We remember, right? So again, do you see how we go into a negative program? Oh, I forgot. Pause. But that means now I remember what I am. I'm this pure whole, every being, this light that's already in me. And I choose that. I choose that. Now, I'm not saying when we're in the middle of a crisis that it isn't time to allow for the exchange of energy in the processes of grief or frustration or setting boundaries and taking right action. Of course we do. But we do it with what we call dispassionate compassion as an observer. I have compassion for myself in this situation. I look through the appearances and see the truth of their being and my being. Rest and call that forth. And get still enough to know that I am and the kingdom is within. The first line of prayer is always to go within and harmonize and to feel whatever it is we're choosing from the universal smorgasbord becomes a living reality by feeling it as a present manifestation. It's happening now. Not later, not next week, but to open the door and for doubters, maybe crack the window. Because we are worthy, that is what we are, because we just exist. We've got all this heavy stuff that's been in the way, but we can lighten up and let that go. So we're going to do a little exercise, and this is a 3-part meditation. I just invite you to follow along with me. Your eyes can be closed or they can be open. And we're going to, this is for harmonizing our head brain and our heart brain. So according to however you want to participate, I invite you at this moment just to touch your heart. Wherever that feels that it exists for you, physically or energetically. And you can do this with a finger or a flat palm, as they do in the Mayan tradition. You can put the hands together in prayer mudra and place it there in the hollow of your chest, like the Buddhists or the Christians do. And just take a moment to touch that space there in the physical body, deep, deep, deep. To the physical heart, to the emotional and energetic space of being, to the very core essence of ourselves. The lotus of the heart in which God dwells as us. And smile. And then invite the awareness of the feeling of your breath. Just notice that you're breathing and allow your attention to flow and be carried with the breath as if you were breathing in and out through your heart, like a gentle breeze when a window or a door is open. And allow your breath to slow down. When this happens, it signals a sense of safety to that limbic system. And fear and doubt begin to melt away. We cannot be in 2 places at one time. And to help support that feeling, choose perhaps one or a combination of the following. A sense of caring, anyone, or perhaps your favorite pet, or maybe even yourself, this gift of life. Open yourself to perhaps the feeling of appreciation. And let that feeling flow in and out through your heart. And gratitude. Slowly feel the flow of gratitude in and out. From the front of the heart to the very back between the shoulder blades. And as the observer of this process, of this feeling nature and touch in the heart, embody or invite a sense of discompassionate compassion. Deep, deep, deep compassion without allowing ourselves to get pulled off center or caught up in the story. But as that witness and observer remaining so anchored in our hearts, in that feeling of that pure essence of our being, that light of our soul at our very core, our joy. And smile as you say hello to any of those feelings. The smile is the shape of receptivity, of acknowledgement. And as we do this, know that there are over 1,300 biochemical reactions that have been ignited in our system. From the inside, it unfolds and moves throughout the body, supporting our immune system, our cardiovascular system, digestion, and even slowing the aging process. And allow ourselves just to receive and soak in that sacred, silent presence of that feeling. And know that it will continue for a minimum. Its benefits of all those biochemicals for 6 hours. How that gift of life seeks to be free in its expression. To remind ourselves of the truth of what we are. And then as we conclude, know that the brain has changed and your emotional molecules have changed, and you're not the same person that you were when you walked in these doors. Memory is being restored in wholeness. just by arranging those conditions. So when we leave here, the second part of today is the power of play. Maslow, in his hierarchy of self-actualization, talked about the importance of making work our play. And science knows that the brain doesn't accept anything that's not pleasurable. Think about it. Don't we all seek happiness and fulfillment on some level? In everything? Could be an indication that joy is our natural state. So, through play, in the moment, not taking ourselves so seriously and lightening up, we can bring that into awareness. And I know today I thought, oh boy, I had all these ideas. We could set up booths and do all these fun things. And I said, well, I'm just healing from shingles and I've been on the couch all week. So it's like, I know what we can do. We can have virtual play, right? Because the subconscious believes anything we tell it. So I thought that that's what we could do today for our next exercise. And did you know that there's actually a play circuit in your brain? And it's in all mammals. And this gentleman by the name of Pensep, he discovered it. They were watching a bunch of juvenile rats playing, and they found out that they like to wrestle. And they were making these sounds, and they couldn't really detect what they were. So they got some kind of a, what would it be, Chris? Some kind of a amplifier, thank you, Mary, that it would amplify the sound where you could hear it better. Okay, so they went to replicate it, so they took a pencil eraser and they started like pushing on the little rats, you know, and they would then chase the pencil eraser around and they push on them again and they'd make this noise, and guess what they were doing? Laughing! They were laughing! They were laughing. They were laughing. I think, and we all know how good that feels to play. And it's also, people who play, they don't become brittle, do they? The stress can't break them because they're so relaxed and light. And the brain's favorite way to learn is actually through play. There was a gentleman who got the Nobel Prize for some biological important finding. And when you go to his lab, guess what about half of the lab was filled with? A sandbox. He would spend the majority of his day playing in the sandbox. Because when he was relaxed and out of his head, his creative juices just flowed. He didn't have to think about it or try to make it happen. It just showed up. And we also know that when you play, that it connects up to your frontal, prefrontal lobes for more awakening and conscious realization. So life can really be fun if we can choose it. And that gives us the resilience when times happen that are more traumatic. We become more resilient. Our perspective changes. We have that groundedness to do that. There's also a gentleman you might want to check out called Stuart Brown. He's a psychiatrist and a researcher, and he's the founder of the National Institute for Play. I guess that's something I need to join. And he wrote this book called Play, How It Shapes the Brain, Opens Imagination, and Invigorates Our Soul. And invigorates our soul. So what I thought would be fun for our final exercise is to do a virtual recess time of play together. And again, you can do this eyes closed or eyes open for yourself. And I thought instead of going into a sandbox, we've had so much rain lately, and everything is so lush, it's going to be an incredible fall, that we just imagine for a moment that we're children again. Happy child. Okay? And you're outside. But you're going to go outside and you notice it's raining. And you say, Mom, can I go outside and play? She goes, all right. Put your raincoat on or your galoshes and take your umbrella. Because it wasn't lightning or thunder. It was just kind of a gentle rain. So perhaps close your eyes and imagine for a moment that that's where you are. Whatever you're choosing to wear, as you step outside your door, however the rain is coming down. Whether you have a rain hat or you put up an umbrella, listen to the sound of the droplets of the rain as it touches on some surface, your umbrella, your body, the leaves around you, the ground. And maybe you even pull back the umbrella for a moment and look up at the sky and open your mouth to catch these soft, light drops of moisture on your tongue. And then you continue to walk along. And you're skipping. And you notice a puddle. And what do?
Stop it.
Stop it, okay. Jump in that puddle, splash it around. After all, Mom did give you permission to go out in the rain and play. So we give ourselves permission just to enjoy the rain, however it is speaking to us. And the rain stops, and we smell the freshness. And the clouds part, and the sun begins to peek out. And as we turn into the next direction, we look up, and what do we see? A multicolored rainbow. Not one, but two. An upside-down smile. All the various lights and expressions of consciousness. Radiating its light and presence down and through us, awakening that presence within us that we are. And because the power of prayer is when we have a dream or an intention or a goal, and we claim it as a present reality with that feeling nature that is happening now, Perhaps choose something that you would like to experience more of in your life, whatever that might be, and smile and welcome it into you and through you, and literally bubbling up from the inside of your heart. And allow yourself to experience the feeling of fulfillment and ask yourself, how would I feel if I was already experiencing that in its completeness? Where would I feel it in my body? How happy would my heart be? Would I possibly experience smiles in every cell? Rest here, anchored in this feeling of completion and fulfillment. And now see a friend walking by. And they say to you, oh my goodness, something's changed in your life. You look so bright and happy, but very grounded, very present, very aware and alert. And you smile back and you say, thank you. Yes, I am now fulfilled. I am now fulfilled in the feeling of my intention or my dream already present. And I now choose to maintain it throughout the day through self-remembrance and play. And now from this space of wholeness and fulfillment, let us also invite everyone in our families, in our friends, in our community, in our country, on this planet, and people wherever they may be, on whatever plane of existence at this time. Look deep into the lotus of their hearts and see their light and fulfillment. And smile to them as their heart essence smiles back and recognizes that within themselves and within you as the same.